I know. Hey
guys.
The number one contender to the AEW World Tag Team Championship. That's what's left of my pickle.
Yeah, is that your pickle? Sorry.
Congratulations on a great match tonight.
Thank you very much.
And Chris Jericho, of course, part of the very first Full Gear and part of a great match tonight here at Full Gear. Chris, we're just taking questions here. Anybody with a question for Le Champion?
Kenny went home because his cat is sick. So just in case you're wondering where he is. Aww.
Corey Lee with the Wrestling Observer. 2 questions, actually. First, your arm. Obviously, it seems like you injured your okay. Not just a couple scratches from...
10 stitches from the stairs. But yeah, nothing major.
Nothing major on that. And then the second question I have is, obviously, you guys are now doing this tag team with Kenny Omega. Talk about it in regards to how your career here in AEW has evolved as of late, and now being in the tag team, you are the number one contenders as well, so you will be having a title shot.
Yeah, I think the moment that Kenny and I first worked in Tokyo, at the Tokyo Dome for New Japan, we knew we had great chemistry as opponents, and whenever you have great chemistry as opponents, that usually means you're going to have great chemistry as a team. So I think our overall goal or end game or idea was to at some point be a tag team, and the story really kind of started coming together this summer with the Don Callis family, and we just thought it was a real natural progression to form a team after being such great rivals, in the beginning of AEW. I think the first year we worked quite a few very important matches, including the very first pay-per-view main event, the very first Stadium Stampede. So then there was a lot of the street fight that we had in Daly's Place, which was amazing. So Kenny and I have always had this idea, and the name the Golden Jets obviously is kind of a takeoff on the Golden Lovers, but also the most famous hockey player in Winnipeg history is Bobby Hull, who's the Golden Jet. And Kenny and I are both from Winnipeg, obviously, so we just thought that's a great name. So here we are, and now the Golden Jets are number one contenders for the AEW Tag Team Championships, and I think the story has been great, and it was a great story told tonight, and we'll continue to tell that story over the next few weeks, months, however long it goes.
Hi, Crisel Torres from Contralona. At 52 years old, you look great, you moved great in the ring, it was a great match. What was the secret for you to prepare for this kind of match with the Young Bucks and Omega, who are younger than you, but also, obviously, you have more experience?
Yeah, it's been probably one of the busiest weeks that I've had in a while. I had 3 matches this week. The first one was in Japan a week ago on Saturday against Takeshita. Then we had the Like a Dragon street fight, which was also great. Both were great. And then tonight against the Bucks. So maybe preparing was just kind of being in the groove after having so many matches in a week. I mean, back in the WWE days, you'd have 4 or 5 matches a week. Here, we don't do that. So getting 3 in a week was something where I was like, oh, that's a good way to kick off your 53rd year. But I mean, I feel exactly the same as I did when I was 43, maybe even better now. I don't really put any type of age limit on myself, because as long as I can go out there and have the best match on any given night, not every night, but on any given night, I still feel very comfortable in the ring. And obviously being with Kenny and Matt and Nick, who are all just geniuses at their craft as well, it was a no-brainer. Tony wanted to do the match, and it was one of those ones, as soon as he suggested it, it's like, hell yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. And I also think following just the insane Texas Death Match, which was amazing, not a lot of people could follow that match. And I think we did, and followed it very well by rebuilding the crowd. And I like challenges like that, I think a lot of times the easy thing to do is put a buffer match in. I don't like buffer matches. I think the way the show is structured, how Tony likes to do it, is the last third is your big main event banger trio of matches. So I was really happy with how that match turned out, and the reactions, and obviously the finish as well.
It was tremendous. It was fantastic. And also, just to speak to the run, I mean, this week 3 matches, but also the past year, what an amazing run you've been on. And like you said, you've been operating and wrestling at as high a level as ever, and going with some of the best people in the world. This week with Takeshita and competing in the street fight, and then with the Young Bucks teaming with Kenny tonight. But also throughout the year, we just had Will Ospreay in here, and you had one of my favorite matches certainly from All In, and one of the best matches I think you've had this year was Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
That was incredible, and you were going toe to toe and operating at the exact same pace as some of the best people when you're in there with Will Ospreay. And we've talked about some of the great luchadors like Commander, Bandito, and still having these great matches. So I totally agree with what you said about Chris.
You know, every once in a while you get an athlete who kind of defies age. Gordie Howe comes to mind, one of the greatest players in NHL history, who at 53 I think was the top scorer on the Hartford Whalers in like 1981. So maybe I'm the Gordie Howe of AEW at this point.
Hey, Chris, Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer.
Jim.
Hey, Gordie Howe didn't take power bombs off the top rope from Takeshita. 2 questions. The match with Takeshita, how and why? And then putting together the street fight. Obviously, a lot of unique ideas. And with the tie-in with the video game, maybe some things that oftentimes go out of the realm of professional wrestling. You, with your leadership position, how do you deal with younger talent, coaching them, maybe teaching them a better way to approach some of their wilder ideas?
We first questioned Takeshita. I think Tony and I decided that match would be great to do in Japan. Obviously, I love working in Japan. I hadn't been in almost 4 years, since 2020 Tokyo Dome with Tanahashi. And I really wanted to have a big match with Takeshita and also continue that over here into AEW. So I think we'll have a match here at some point as well to kind of build upon that. So it was just the right place at the right time. I think Takeshita, I think the world of him. He's got so many great tendencies and he's so good at such a young age. And I thought it'd be a great way for me to return to Japan. And it really turned out great. It was one of my favorite trips that I've ever had there, which was a lot of fun. And as far as the street fight and that sort of thing, I didn't really know much about the game, so a lot of that was Kenny kind of orchestrating. There has to be bikes and there has to be signs, and I thought the Yakuza suit was a good idea because there's Yakuza in the game too. I love the idea of having Paul White as my partner because when Hobbs beat the crap out of me, like what would you do if that happened? Like you know, if you get beat up in the playground, you would show up with your big brother. You know, My Bodyguard, that old movie from the 80s where it's like, all right, motherfucker, you want to beat me up? I'm going to bring someone bigger. So I liked that element. I thought we did a great job with him showing his strengths, and obviously Hobbs slamming him on the car, which was beyond incredible. I think kind of what you're asking as far as with younger guys, I think the one thing I've been able to do is just to show guys that moves are important, but the character and the story means so much more. It's everything. I mean, how do you follow a batshit crazy death match by having a story where Kenny's trying to decide who he's going to give the V-trigger to and getting a huge reaction when they think it's going to be me and they ends up hitting Nick? I mean, that's a V-trigger. But we got one of the biggest reactions of the night with that story and that decision, and that's what wrestling's all about. So I think that's something that I've always claimed and proclaimed, and I think a lot of our guys are really starting to get that, a lot of the younger guys. And that's something that I think I take great pride in, because a lot of our guys when we first started came straight from the indies to national TV. And moves and great matches are important, but if you don't have that hook and that tag and that story, people won't come back. And we've had great stories our whole time here in AEW, and they're long ones. Sometimes people get angry about that. I never have a problem with a long story. I like long stories. I like people having to wait to see what's going to happen and not know what the finish is before you start. And that makes some people angry, but I love, that's what I always loved about wrestling, was the stories that you can tell, and that's I think what we do really well here.
I love the multiple plates spinning.
Yes.
You know, it's great. Like this week, you know, you just mentioned the 3 matches you had, and you were able to go and wrestle Takeshita in Japan, come back and have the Sega Street Fight, and not only do we have the Like a Dragon Gaiden Street Fight, but also the incredible match you had tonight when they were totally different kinds of matches, and that's something I really thought would be great.
Yeah.
And you know, it's very different. It's apples and oranges, but looking back at Revolution 2020, which is a pay-per-view I loved, you know, you had Kenny and the Young Bucks also involved there. You were involved, but in a different story, a different part of the show. And I remember Kenny had the great match in Kansas City on Dynamite with Pac in the Iron Man match, and then, of course, classic tag team match, teaming with Hangman against the Young Bucks. And it was great to see different stories come together this week, different plates spinning. You really had different things happening. Young Bucks jealous of what's happening with you and Kenny, and you and Kenny had the incredible street fight, which was also very profitable for AEW. And then we were able to parlay it into this great match, which, like you said, there were so many different things happening on the pay-per-view tonight, and I was really excited to have your match in that position, unlike what I wanted to have, which is just hot matches and building the card and more excitement. And with everything there was in that match, I was just so happy to have Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks for AEW Originals involved, and also really, like you said, Chris, great storytelling, because to be able to get the kind of reactions you did at that point in the show, the crowd had seen everything under the sun, so much crazy stuff, and with a great wrestling match, a lot of great wrestling moves, but more than moves, the quality of you guys as athletes, storytellers, wrestlers, it really shined through, I thought, tonight.
Let me just say, too, that Full Gear 2020 was Jericho versus Mox, and that's when I lost the AEW title, and 2 weeks later, worldwide pandemic. Coincidence? I think not. You should have kept the title on me.
Well, is that right? Yeah. And well, to be fair, at Revolution 2020, I think the wheels were in motion at that point. But that was a great night and a great night of wrestling. And looking back, I just thought it was neat to see, and it was seeing Kenny out there against the Young Bucks again, and how much had changed, but at the same time, it was great to see different plates spinning and to be able to come back to that. I thought it was really cool. And like you said, for you to be at this point in your wrestling career and to be involved in three great and three totally different kinds of matches in 1 week, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey Chris, Denise Salcedo. I have a two-part question here. The first one is, we were just talking about Will Ospreay and the match that you had with him at All In. I wanted to get your thoughts on Will Ospreay becoming All Elite. And then the second part to that question is, there's been a lot of big things that have happened for AEW in 2023. And of course, given your history with the company, I wanted to get your thoughts on just what AEW has been able to accomplish this year.
First of all, I'm really glad that Will signed with us. I was kind of hoping that he was going to. We've been talking about it for a while. I talked to Will on the phone about it maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe. I think the Wimbledon match we had was one of my favorites of the year. I think it was one of the best matches on the show, if not the best match. And that's what Will does. He has, I think this is one of the greatest career years for any professional wrestler ever. The thing I like about Will that he's just tapping into, that we kind of got into before our match, is his character. He's got a character that's very believable. And I think that's something he's really going to get to focus on here at AEW that you don't really get a chance to in New Japan because of the communication gap. So I think this is the right place for him. I think we know what to do with Will Ospreay. I think there's a lot of huge matches he can have here, and to do the style that he wants to do for as long as he can do it. To me, he's one of the most valuable players in the world, and one of the biggest gets that AEW could acquire. So I'm really excited about that. Second part of the question is, 4 years in, I think there was a lot of people that thought we'd be gone in the first 6 months, and I remember 3 months in when we got the first real television deal, which was just so huge. I remember I just couldn't believe it. And now here we are, poised to get this, another deal and whatever it's going to be. But I think that we've really proven, who we are as a company. When I say the demo god, that's a real thing. Our demos are through the roof. If we're not number one on a given week, it's because of basketball or hockey. Nobody else can say that.
I don't think hockey's beating us.
Just basketball. Trying to get a hockey plug in there.
We're doing very well relative to hockey people.
But if it's not number one, it's basketball, or once in a while another show. But I think our track record speaks for itself, and I think we're going to really be able to profit from that. And we're still just beginning. We're so young as a company. 4 years in, it's nothing.
And this was the best year yet. It's crazy. It's like we've started with such a high bar we set, and a huge year, big ratings, and drawing big crowds the first year, but then to come out and do the things we've done, expand the pay-per-views, and keep drawing, and really what we did in London with all
I mean,
in.
that was huge.
Crazy.
When I told the manager of Iron Maiden, who's a good friend of mine, Iron Maiden's one of the biggest bands in the world. When I told him that we sold 80,000 tickets in Wembley, he's like, "What? That's fucking crazy. How'd you do that? That's crazy." Like, that was a really big deal. And a lot of times, people take that for granted, but that's something that nobody does, man. And that's a huge feather in our cap, just to show the worldwide interest for our company. I went to Japan last week. They're singing Judas. There's literally Japanese fans singing Judas, which was incredible. Whether they know the words or not, what they mean, they've sang it, and that's huge. So, like Tony said, we're just beginning. We've got so much momentum. So many great wrestlers are here. People want to come here, as we saw with Will Ospreay and Adam Copeland, 2 huge acquisitions. So. I'm excited about the future, and I'm excited about the present. It was a great show tonight, and as we always do when the pay-per-view's done, you congratulate yourself and you have a drink and you get ready to continue the stories and the magic on Wednesday.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys.
Chris.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Come on. Oh.